I was at the door, suitcase zipped, passport ready, humming Sinatra like I was auditioning for a holiday advert. 6 hours until Paris. Paris. Croissants, wine, suspiciously overpriced souvenirs, all line up like a reward for surviving this family circus of mine. And then my phone buzzed. I thought it was Lindsay, my darling daughter, sending a sweet last-minute reminder. Don't forget your boarding pass, Dad. You know, the kind of wholesome text that makes you feel like parenting might have been worth it after all. But no, what I got instead was a literary equivalent of being punched in the kidneys by someone you love. You're not coming with us. My husband thinks it's better if this holiday stays family only. Excuse me? Family only? I am her family. I am literally the father in the phrase father-daughter trip. I paid for the tickets. I mapped out the itinerary. I researched the restaurants. And apparently I am now what? The concierge? The bloke who funds it all but isn't quite invited to the show? Lovely. I just sat there, staring at the text like it might autocorrect itself into something sane. Maybe she meant bring extra family. Maybe predictive text had betrayed her. But no, the sentence was as clear as a tax bill. Family only. I typed back the only thing my quivering little thumbs could manage. Okay. Which, in case you didn't know, is divorced dad code for I'm quietly dying inside, but let's pretend I'm fine. So there I was, suitcase open on the bed, mocking me with its carefully folded shirts and sensible walking shoes. The guidebooks with sticky notes. The shiny new camera still in its box. A suitcase that had once promised Paris now sat there looking like a tombstone for my dignity. Naturally, I called the airline, because if I couldn't go to Europe, then neither could my seat. Let them resell it to some honeymooning couple who actually like each other. The customer service rep was polite, efficient, and definitely knew she was speaking to a man on the verge of eating 3 family-sized bags of Crystalone. I'm sorry to hear about your change of plans, Mr. Owens, she said. Oh, don't worry, love. I've got loads of plans now. They just involve crying quietly into travel brochures and Googling how to disown your daughter without looking bitter. That night, I sat in my quiet house, which, by the way, felt emptier than a politician's promise, scrolling through Facebook, praying for cat memes to numb the sting. And then, oh joy, there was Todd's parents, Eiffel Tower, smiling like they just solved world hunger. Caption, best family holiday ever. 2 hours ago. Lovely. Just lovely. I clicked through the photos with all the desperation of a man looking for evidence that he hasn't been replaced by his in-laws. But no, there they were, for smiling faces. My daughter, her husband, his parents, all clinking wine glasses in Paris. And the caption? So grateful for family time in the City of Light. Family time. Right. Apparently, I'm just some bloke who pays for houses and gets ghosted harder than a Tinder date who mentioned cryptocurrency. I set my phone down, took a deep breath, and thought, well, this is new. I've officially been demoted from dad to walking cash machine. And that's when the anger started to bubble. The kind that makes you realize maybe funding their shiny new house wasn't the best investment after all. There they were, still smiling, still fresh, still prancing about Paris with my itinerary, like I'd gift-wrapped culture and handed it over. Timestamps glowing smugly back at me. Yes, Dad, this betrayal is real time, not a throwback Thursday. I walked to the kitchen window, caught my reflection in the glass, hollow-eyed, ghostly, basically auditioning for the role of haunted man wallpaper. And just behind my reflection, their group photos still glowing from the phone screen. The irony was cinematic. Their happiness superimposed over my lonely mug, like some cruel Instagram filter called Forgotten Parent. Sleep? Forget it. My brain spent the night running their holiday slideshow on repeat. Eiffel Tower, wine glasses, Todd's smug grin, Lindsay's smile that I'd apparently paid a subscription fee to maintain. By morning, I wasn't so much a man as I was a resentful zombie in pajamas, clutching a coffee mug like it was life support. So, I did what any self-respecting, abandoned father would do. I rang her, the expensive international ringtone, alone nearly gave me a stroke. 3 rings. 4. Then, finally, her voice. Bright, cheerful. "Hi, Dad." Oh, lovely. She sounded like she'd just discovered croissants. No pleasantries from me. "I need to understand something," I said, which is polite code for what the hell is wrong with you. She tried casual. Distracted. You could almost hear her wandering Paris with Todd, probably pretending to know who Monet was. And then I asked about the photos, about Todd's parents. And boom, silence. The kind of silence that screams caught red-handed but rehearsing excuses. And then it came. The line. The dagger. "Dad, you can be overwhelming." Overwhelming. Like I was some sort of human foghorn. Apparently, I ruin holidays now. Forget the fact I planned this one. Forget the tickets, the maps, the spreadsheets color-coded, like a military operation. No, I'm just a chaos gremlin who ruins fun. And then, oh, it got better. They pay for themselves. They don't expect us to take care of them constantly. Constantly? I'm sorry. Am I living in a parallel universe? Because I distinctly remember the constant being me footing the bills while Todd auditioned for the role of man who occasionally works but never successfully. But wait, Lindsay wasn't done. She went full ice queen. Todd was right. "Dad, you're too needy." Needy. That word echoed like a curse. Needy? I've paid your tuition, your wedding, your house, your bills, your everything. Needy is me asking for ketchup on my chips, not bankrolling your entire existence. I didn't bother goodbye. Just hung up, set the phone down carefully, like it might explode. Though honestly, I half hoped it would. I drifted to my office. The family photo shrine. A wall of evidence of my stupidity. Lindsay on her bike, me holding her steady. Graduation. Me paying off her student loans while Todd searched for his passion. Their wedding. Me crying tears of pride, and apparently shelling out 30 grand for privilege. Every photo, a receipt with a frame. My hands clenched. Baby Lindsay in my arms, smiling at me like I was the world. Reflection in the glass now. An older bloke with eyes that had finally stopped pretending. The patience, the trust, the generosity, all repaid with a single word. Needy. I straightened one of the frames. Pathetic little gesture, but it felt symbolic. Like I wasn't just fixing a photo, I was fixing the narrative. And the new story wasn't about a loving dad. It was about a walking cash machine with delusions of belonging. The desk drawer was waiting. Bank statements. Receipts. All the evidence of my role as family financier. £80,000 down payment on their house. Goodbye retirement. Car payments when Todd couldn't hold a job. Student loans. Credit card bills. And now, this Paris holiday. All mine. But the money wasn't the real theft. It was the years. The canceled fishing trips. The dinners I skipped. The woman I never called back because Lindsay needed help moving. My own life constantly postponed, so this could look polished. And in the background of all those memories, Todd, always there, smirking, subtly shifting me from father to furniture with a debit card. By the time I was done stacking the photos face down, the truth was shining clearer than the Eiffel Tower in those smug Facebook posts. I wasn't loved. I was useful. And the thing about being useful? Eventually, people think they can just put you away when they're done. The mirror above my desk showed me a new man. Not dad. Not ATM. Not family mascot. Just a bloke who'd finally seen the scam for what it was. And let me tell you, he didn't look needy anymore. He looked done. So there I was, laptop open, staring at my bank account dashboard like it was some sort of hostage negotiation screen. Cursor hovering over authorized users. Both Lindsay and Todd smugly listed, as if they were shareholders in the Bank of Dad. My finger twitched above the trackpad, one tiny click away from ending years of generosity. And then, I shut the laptop. Dramatic, I know, like slamming the lid on Pandora's box. Except instead of demons, mine was full of overdraft fees and unpaid gratitude. The silence of the house pressed down on me. The family photos still lying face down, like even they couldn't bear to watch this train wreck. For a moment, I just sat there, stewing in my own stupidity. Then ping. The cheerful little chime of my banking app. Usually it's some boring notification about credit monitoring or a promotion I'll never use. But not this time. Oh no, this one came with a punch to the gut. Transaction processed. Liberard Restaurant. Paris. 2 hours ago. Which, funnily enough, lined up perfectly with Parisian lunchtime. My money. Their baguette. My generosity. Their steak tartare. And that's when it clicked. My darling daughter was happily using the emergency access card I'd given her years ago. You know, back when I thought helping her build credit was a noble act of fatherhood. Turns out, I was just underwriting her Parisian shopping spree. Honestly, the irony was enough to give me indigestion, and I wasn't even the one eating French food. I scrolled. Hotel charges. Shopping boutiques. Tourist attractions. My card, my name, my money. Meanwhile, Todd's parents, the ones who paid their own way, apparently, they paid in good vibes while I got stuck with the receipts. Another ping. 85 pounds at boutique chic. Oh, wonderful. Nothing like funding your daughter's midlife crisis wardrobe while you sit at home in a faded jumper, drinking instant coffee. That did it. Years of supportive father nonsense versus the sudden clarity that support and exploitation are not synonyms. My finger hovered over remove user. Are you sure? This action cannot be undone. Yes, sweetheart. I've never been sure of anything. Click. And just like that, Lindsay was financially evicted from the bank of dad. Authorized user access. Revoked. For the first time in years, I felt something resembling control. Small smile. Deep satisfaction. And I hadn't even had my second cup of coffee yet. Speaking of, I brewed one. The gurgling coffee maker sounded like victory. My neighbor's lawnmower fired up outside. Life carrying on as usual while my quiet little revolution unfolded. The next morning, I was actually enjoying myself. Coffee tasted like freedom. The paper, dull as ever, suddenly read like poetry. Then the phone rang. International number. Yes. Paris was calling. I let it ring twice, because desperate parents always answer on the first ring. But I was no longer desperate. Good morning to you too, Lindsay. I said, cheerful as you like. Her breath caught. Sharp, angry. Dad, what did you do to the card? Straight to the point. No pleasantries, no concern. Not even a fake, how are you? Just financial panic. Music to my ears. I removed her access. You can't do that. I tried to pay for lunch. Declined. In front of Todd's parents. Her shrill tone could have cracked crystal. The waiter had come back 3 times. It was humiliating. I sipped my coffee. That must have been embarrassing. Embarrassing? Mortifying. You can't do that. I need that card. For what? I thought you didn't need me taking care of you constantly. That's completely different. Yes. The magical rule book where my money is different. Then came the piece de resistance. The consequence. When we get back, Todd and I are looking into care facilities. My coffee cup froze midair. Care facilities? You're getting older, Dad. You obviously can't handle your finances responsibly. We'll sell your house to pay for it. You don't need all that space anyway. The sheer cruelty in her tone was breathtaking. Truly a masterclass. Todd's voice chimed in the background. Tell him it's for his own good. Yes, Todd. Nothing screams loving son-in-law, like plotting to ship your father-in-law off to a care home because his wallet went on strike. Dad, are you listening? Restore my card access. I heard every word. Good. So you'll fix it? No. What do you mean, no? I mean no. Enjoy the rest of your family vacation. Dad, don't you dare. Click. I hung up, set the phone down face first, steady hands, calm heart. Took another long sip of coffee, looking out at my neat little garden. And for once in this whole circus, I didn't feel needy. I felt free. This house, my house, 30 years of blood, sweat, and mortgage payments, finally mine outright. No bank, no strings, no co-signers with sticky fingers. Just my name on the deed. And yet, according to my darling daughter and her delightful husband, it was basically a monopoly token they could flog off to fund my one-way ticket to a care home. Charming, isn't it? 30 years of loyalty, and I get priced up like I'm some old sofa on Gumtree. I left my coffee half drunk, the ultimate sign of war, and stomped into my office. There, in my trusty filing cabinet, which had probably seen more drama than an EastEnders omnibus, I pulled out the paperwork. Not my deed, mind you. I already knew that was safe. No, this was the Maple Street house. Their house. The one I'd so generously bought for Lindsay and Todd. Of course, the deed had never been transferred into their names. They swore it was temporary, just until the mortgage cleared, just until life calmed down. Yes, well, life clearly never calmed down, except for me, when I finally realized I was sitting on a very satisfying revenge asset. I found Marcus Chen's card in my drawer. Marcus, estate agent, local legend, and the only man I trusted more than my own daughter, which, granted, isn't saying much. I drove over, waving at Mrs. Patterson like I was off to pick up a loaf of bread, when in reality I was plotting the sort of parental betrayal that would make Shakespeare weep with envy. Marcus greeted me with that polished grin. "Gary, retirement treating you well?" "Oh, peachy," I said, "except I need to sell the Maple Street property. Quickly." He blinked. "The one you bought for Lindsay?" "Yes, that's the one. Market hot." "Very," he said, pulling up figures. 180, maybe 190. I nearly clapped my hands. Bought it for 130. If spite were a currency, I'd already be a millionaire, but a tidy profit never hurt. He suggested staging, photography, open houses, the whole parade. I cut him off. "It's occupied, but I've got keys. Just list it." Marcus raised an eyebrow, but, bless him, didn't ask questions. That's why I liked him. Discretion, not judgment. By the time I signed the paperwork, I felt lighter, like I just traded in years of manipulation for a fresh start. On the way home, I turned the radio up, classical music blasting, as if Mozart himself were scoring my petty little revolution. At a red light, I saw a young family crossing. Dad carrying a toddler, Mom pushing a stroller. Sweet, innocent, and blissfully unaware that in 20 years, their kid might be threatening to sell their house too. Ah, the circle of life. Back home, I saw the property listed successfully email pop up. It felt like fireworks in Times Square, but quieter, cheaper, and only visible on my laptop screen. Still, satisfaction surged, but I wasn't done yet. Storage. Yes, if I was booting Lindsay and Todd out of their own home, I'd need somewhere to dump their life's possessions. Enter Dave's Honest Moving. I like the name. Straightforward. No nonsense. Hopefully no hidden, "we'll scratch your furniture for a free" clause. I rang. "Dave's Moving." A deep voice answered. "This is Dave?" I asked. "The one and only." Perfect. A real human being, not a call center robot pretending to care about my valued custom. I explained the job. A whole house, needed cleared tomorrow. Dave didn't even flinch. "Family situation?" he asked. "Something like that." I replied. Translation: "Yes, I'm evicting my daughter and son-in-law while they're in Paris." "Don't ask." "Been there myself," he said. That worried me more than it comforted me. Within minutes, he'd roped in Janet from secure storage. Because apparently, Dave doesn't just move your mess, he organizes where to hide it too. 10 by 20 unit. $120 for the first month. Done. My petty revolution had now gone full logistical operation. That night, I actually ate dinner with an appetite. Something I hadn't done since the year our holiday fiasco began. I even laid out my old work jeans and boots. Retired Gary was gone. Revenge Gary was clocking in. The evening news played in the background, but I wasn't listening to politicians lie about taxes or weathermen lie about rain. I was focused on one thing. Tomorrow was moving day, and for once, I wasn't the one being moved. Everything was sliding into place with military precision. If karma were an architect, it would have been me standing there, blueprint in hand, smirking at the chaos to come. That night, I dutifully checked my phone was charging. Because what's the point of revenge if your battery dies halfway through fireworks? Glass of water, toothbrush, existential crisis in the mirror. The man staring back wasn't the doormat of last week. No, this was a man on a mission. One who had finally stopped waiting for permission slips to live his own life. By 7:45 a.m., I was outside Maple Street, 15 minutes early because, well, spite waits for no man. The house looked less like my daughter's family home, and more like a glorified storage unit about to have its contents repossessed. Dave's truck was already idling out front, coughing exhaust into the crisp air like a dragon clearing its throat. Out he came, solid bloke, mid-50s, built like he could carry your sofa and your emotional baggage without breaking stride. His two younger lads were already unloading equipment, looking like removal-themed Power Rangers. "Mr. Owens," Dave said, shaking my hand. Proper handshake, too, the kind you trust. None of this limp, sweaty nonsense Todd specializes in. I unlocked the door, and we stepped into a silence so sharp it felt ceremonial. Dave did the walkthrough, clipboard in hand. 3 hours, maybe 4. Take it all, I told him. Everything belongs to Lindsay and Todd, which was code for strip this place cleaner than a student fridge the night before payday. They started with the bedrooms. I insisted on helping, ignoring Dave's gentle warning about liability. "I'm not that old," I said, and one of the lads actually grinned, which was frankly the most validation I'd had in months. Soon, I was lugging boxes labeled Lindsay's books and Todd's sport equipment. Though between us, I suspect half of Todd's sport equipment was just shiny gadgets he never used. Then I found the wedding albums, flicked through a few. Surprise, surprise. Todd's family center stage, me shoved into the corners like some gate crasher who'd photobombed the event. Closed the album. No tears. Just quiet confirmation that I was the financial donor, not the father of the bride. Room by room, we excavated years of my generosity. Designer handbags, hers. Fancy gaming chairs, his. Leather dining set, mine, but who's counting? Even the future nursery, complete with a crib for grandchildren that never materialized. For 1 second, guilt tiptoed in. Then I found Todd's credit card statements. Champagne taste with woe is me stories, all funded by me. The guilt evaporated faster than my pension. "You all right, Mr. Owens?" Dave asked, noticing my pause. "Just memories," I said. Translation: I've realized my daughter married a financial parasite. Carry on. By 11:30, the place was stripped bare. Empty rooms echoed with the smugness of justice served. We locked up, trundled everything to secure storage, and shoved their worldly possessions into Unit 47B. Out of sight, out of entitlement. I paid Dave in cash, adding a tip big enough to make him grin. "Hope it all works out," he said warmly. Oh, it would. Just not for Lindsay. Back home, my phone buzzed like a wasp in a jar. Facebook. Lindsay had already taken her performance to the stage. Status updates dripping with self-pity. Some people have no respect for family privacy. Oh, please. The comments were full of friends consoling her, while she played the victim like she was auditioning for EastEnders. I closed the app before I threw the phone. Called Marcus instead. He answered like a man who'd been waiting for my call. "Gary, great news. Cash offer. Young couple. They're desperate. 185. I nearly kissed the phone. Profit and pettiness in one neat package. By Friday morning, I was signing papers like a machine. The buyers, Michael and Sarah Thompson, bright-eyed, early 30s, glowing with that pre-mortgage optimism. Sarah complimented the landscaping. I smiled politely and didn't mention I hadn't lifted a finger. Michael gushed about the swing-ready garden. Lovely. Please, take the keys, my good man. Bank transfer, $185,000. After fees, I'd made a tidy profit. Not bad for a house I'd only bought to make my daughter independent. If irony were taxable, HMRC would have had me bankrupt by now. Saturday, I couldn't resist one last drive-by. U-Haul out front, movers bustling, Michael setting up a swing set, Sarah planting flowers. A baby crib disappeared into the house. New beginnings, fresh energy, hope blooming like weeds. It was disgustingly wholesome. And then, poetic timing. My phone rang. International number. I answered just as a taxi pulled up. Out stepped Lindsay, looking like a woman ready to walk into her castle, only to discover she'd been evicted from it. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Todd paid the driver, his face doing a little interpretive dance. Confusion, horror, and finally that dawning panic you only see on toddlers who've just realized ice cream melts. He clocked the U-Haul and the strangers in what he apparently thought was his driveway. Bless. Excuse me, Todd called, puffing his chest like a pigeon trying to impress. Sarah looked up from her gardening. Friendly as you like, still holding a trowel that, given the tension, could have doubled as a murder weapon. What are you doing in our house? Todd demanded. Michael appeared in the doorway, paperwork in hand like a gunslinger with receipts. Your house? I think there's been a mistake. That's when I stepped out of my car. Calm, steady, envelope in hand. The villain entering stage left. Lindsay spotted me and her face went through the emotional Olympics. Confusion, realization, pure rage. 3 seconds flat. A new record. Dad, what is going on here? Why are strangers in our house? She screeched, in that pitch that could shatter wine glasses and family relationships simultaneously. Michael and Sarah exchanged a worried glance. Sarah clutching her gardening trowel like she might need to defend her newly acquired semi-detached kingdom. I don't know who you are, Todd said to Michael, trying to summon authority and instead sounding like a man auditioning for a budget soap opera. But you need to move your belongings out immediately. Michael held up the deed, cool as a cucumber. We closed yesterday. That's impossible. This is our house, Lindsay hissed, her voice cracking in that I've always got my way tone. Sarah, bless her, piped up, maybe we should call the police. I finally spoke, my voice calm, measured, the kind of calm that makes people nervous because it usually precedes an explosion. That won't be necessary. Lindsay rounded on me, voice sharp enough to cut wallpaper. Dad, fix this. Now. First, I addressed Michael and Sarah, because manners matter. I'm sorry for confusion. Please continue with your move-in. Translation. Don't mind the soap opera happening in your driveway. Just step around the entitled couple. Then I turned to Lindsay and Todd. The house was sold because it belonged to me. Todd's face drained of color, like someone had unplugged him. What do you mean belonged to you? Check the original deed. It was never transferred to your names. Lindsay's voice rose to that familiar shriek that had haunted me since she was 6. You can't just sell our home. Oh, I can sell my property, I replied sweetly, which is exactly what I did. This is theft. Todd barked, practically foaming at the mouth. We'll sue you. With what money? I asked. Last I checked, your credit cards are declined in Paris. Am I wrong? Michael whispered something to Sarah, probably along the lines of, do we get a refund for this circus? And they sensibly retreated into their house. Their house now. Lindsay's voice wobbled, desperate. Where are we supposed to live? Where are our things? I handed Todd the envelope. He ripped it open like it contained state secrets. Secure storage. Unit 47B, Brady Street, he read aloud. Storage. Lindsay's voice cracked like bad porcelain. Yes, I preserved everything carefully. First month's rent is paid. I replied, honestly, I should have added a bow on top for the effort. Todd crumpled the paper, spitting fury. This is insane. You can't do this to family. Family doesn't exclude fathers from family holidays. I shot back. That's completely different, he whined. Is it? Todd stepped closer, trying intimidation by proximity. Honestly, it was like being threatened by a particularly irritable garden gnome. We'll contest this. We'll fight you in court. The sale is legal. The property was mine. Lindsay turned on the waterworks, pulling out the manipulative voice she'd used since childhood. How could you do this to your own daughter? I stared at her. How could you do what you did to your own father? Sarah poked her head back out, concern written all over her face. Is everything all right? Everything's fine, I told her. Enjoy your new home. Lindsay and Todd stood there on the pavement, luggage still in hand, looking like overdressed tourists who'd accidentally booked a trip to reality. I walked back to my car, boots thudding, each step spelling out, "Done, done, done. This isn't over." Todd shouted behind me. I slid into the driver's seat. Classical music resumed exactly where it had left off. "Yes, it is," I muttered. 3 months later, my doorbell rang. Process server. Legal documents. Lindsay and Todd's lawsuit. I signed without surprise, like a man signing for a takeaway. By afternoon, the case was dismissed. Judge's ruling? Property owner had the legal right to sell. Cold, brutal, efficient. They were even saddled with their own legal fees. Justice tastes best when someone else pays for it. The local rag ran a tiny article. Family property dispute resolved. Translation: entitled couple loses. Town breathes sigh of relief. The gossip mill went wild, of course. In the coffee shop, I overheard. Always thought that son-in-law was entitled. Another said, Gary Owens worked hard his whole life. He deserved better. Not everyone agreed. A few muttered, families should stick together. To which I thought, families should also not treat me like a human ATM with arthritis. Marcus, my estate agent, spotted me at the hardware store. How are you doing with everything? Better than expected, I said, which was British for marvelous. Actually, that afternoon, I went to the pet shop. Max, a 3-year-old golden retriever, needed a home. Tail wagging, eyes hopeful, looking at me like he already knew I was a sucker. Kneel down. Connection instant. Max had found his new human. I'd found my first non-toxic family member in years. An hour later, he was riding shotgun, head out the window, tongue lolling, the very image of freedom. That night, he slept by my bed. First time in months, I didn't feel alone. With Max at my feet, I researched travel trailers. Ended up test driving a 25-foot Airstream, perfect size for one bloke and his golden retriever. Paid outright, because, unlike Lindsay and Todd, I know how to handle money. Soon, we were on the road. National parks. Small towns. Adventures postponed for decades. Me, Max, and a classical playlist. Finally free. I'd arranged a mail hold, asked the neighbors to keep an eye on the property, which, frankly, was like asking toddlers to guard the crown jewels, but it ticked the box. The trailer was loaded. Camping gear, Max's supplies, and one photo album. Just one. Pictures of Lindsay as a child. Back when she thought sharing meant giving me half a biscuit rather than half a nervous breakdown. Before disappointment became our family's official language. Max knew something was up. He paced, tail wagging like a metronome on speed, certain that this was his grand adventure, and I was just a chauffeur. His enthusiasm was contagious, though. And let's be honest, the dog's the only one in his family who's never asked me for money. I started the engine, checked the trailer connection twice, and drove through Davenport one last time. Funny thing, the town looked smaller. Or maybe I'd finally outgrown it. Either way, goodbye and good riddance. Passing Maple Street, I spotted Michael and Sarah's kids playing in the garden. The house, my old house, finally had laughter echoing through it instead of entitlement. It was almost poetic. Almost. Mostly it was just a relief not to see Todd's smug face peering through the curtains. The highway sign flashed. Colorado, 500 miles. Translation, 500 miles of freedom, with only Max's drool decorating the passenger window. My hand was steady on the wheel, his head hanging out like he'd just been appointed Lord of the Wind. For the first time in decades, nobody was demanding explanations, checks, or emotional labor. Just me, the road, and a dog who thought I was God because I bought him treats. That evening, we pulled into a scenic overlook in Colorado. I unfolded a camping chair, glamorous living, I know, and watched as the sun melted into the mountains. Shades of orange and purple painted the sky, colors I'd never noticed before, because I'd been too busy paying other people's bills. Turns out sunsets are free. Who knew? Max settled at my side, loyal, content, and blessedly agenda-free. He didn't want tuition fees, a down payment, or a lavish wedding. Just a pat on the head, and maybe half a sausage roll. And there it was. After years of being treated like an overdraft with legs, I was finally where I belonged. Free. And if you enjoyed this emotional roller coaster dressed as a family drama, do the usual YouTube thing. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave your thoughts in the comments. If you want another story of questionable life choices and petty revenge, click on the box on the left. Go on. You've come this far.